Some of you might be surprised to know that the films I am very inspired by as a 2D animator are actually pure 3D films. They are very pure in their three-dimensionality. They're not trying to look like 2D films all the time. They're not trying to hide their 3 dimensions. And because of that, they managed to achieve things that would be very difficult to achieve if you were doing it in 2D. Starting off, we have this film called The Heretic. It involves this effect that I find is genuinely very special and interesting to look at. But you can see for yourself, there's this really interesting quality with this where it looks like some kind of particle effect that is imbued in the character. So the character can morph, can shapeshift out of these like cables almost. They've got very special animation properties, these cables. You see, they join together, they kind of twist their way together while they're extending. And then at a certain point, you can see they kind of tie themselves in a knot, and then I don't know what's going on here, but they're kind of bunching together, and then they morph into the silhouette of this owl creature. It's come in from two sides, and it really is effects animation here. These cables are going to come up, and they're very small cables. And here we've got these like kind of twisting. Look at this, what's going on here? It suddenly changes, and you're starting to see a head. I can see an owl here, you know, I can see the beginnings of an owl here. And then this one, yeah. So I don't know how they flipped it like that. Now that we've been inspired by this, let's see if there's something similar we can get to in 2D animation. So I've got my TV Paint scene here. I'm going to create a fresh layer. This is going to be a fun test, I think. I'm just going to extend it out to about 80 frames. And this one, I'm going to create fresh instances. So it's just a bunch of blank layers. I'm going to use this brush that I created, which is like a dot decoration. If I hold down Control, I can do this. I've just done a live performed animation. If I create another layer here, and this time I don't add blank instances, so it's just one extended layer. And I do the same thing again. Now this time you can see that it's left the impression of the previous frame behind. Let's do a few of them. So here I've just built this up in a few different layers. We can take these layers, we can collapse them. So now I've got them all merged onto one layer like this. I can use the free transform tool. I can create some perspective distortion like this. Let me use a different brush now. I have this brush that I made called Cashmere Scarf. I enjoy using this brush because it's like a paintbrush. It's got multiple bristles on it, if you like. This is a bit closer to the cables that we were inspired by in the 3D animation. So now I'm just kind of winding my way along. I'm creating combinations here. So now it looks a bit like that. Now that looks pretty cool, I think, but it's still, let's add a little tween to our little piece of motion. Go to the effects panel, and we have a keyframer here. Let's go to the first frame, add a position key and some rotation keys. We can even rotate in 3D space in TV Paint if you want. A key at the end, just gently change the angle to whatever you feel like. I'm just going to assign it some random angles here, see what that does. So something like that. And this is the kind of effect that I've built in 2D that was kind of inspired by that 3D. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, you can learn things by taking something made in one medium, bringing them over to another medium, and you're bound to find something that's kind of inspiring and novel in that. This character here, like, I just don't know how they did this. This is the main character all the way down here, tiny, right? And there's this kind of deity behind this. But if you look really closely, if we zoom in, these are all made out of little tiny particles. And those particles, they kind of are uniform, but they also act independently at times. Check this out. Whoa. What is that and how did they do it? It's amazing what they're able to do with 3D nowadays. So if we step through this closely, let's just have a look at the shoulder armor, this kind of armor that's here on the shoulder. Watch what it starts to do as this big god takes a step forwards. It's like rippling inwards that moves its way along. See, I can learn from this by just zooming in on a particular area and like paying close attention to what's going on. And then here, it's like almost like another shape is rising out of the body of the previous character. You see that? These particles that are coming out. And look at this. I don't know where this headdress comes from, but I don't know. They've lost me there. I don't know how they did that. But look at this. This shoulder horn starts to come down there. And then it's kind of replaced by another one coming up, which is a different color. Interesting. And then on this arm here, this is the particles fanning all over the place until they're just kind of dispersed. And then where's that going? That's kind of coming back here like a bit of a convection. Really cool. Really, really cool. I have no idea how they were able to create that. These little vortexes in the background are really nice as well. You can see them kind of swirling. Very nice. And of course you can create this in 2D animation, but it's gonna look different. Look at this bit as well. God, look at that. That is incredible. Wow, so they really pushed this. By the end of the film, they pushed this to the absolute max. Like, you'd be working on this shot for a long time if you did this in 2D, that's for sure. Let's go on to the next one, Leviathan. This is one of those short films that has been one of the biggest influences on me. I don't know what it is, I just love this film. I love this short story and how they went about it. It could work in 2D, but I think the way it's been directed to fully utilize 3D means, as someone watching, it seems as though it's a story that could only be told this way. Let's have a look at this creature that they create. It feels so massive in this film, this creature right here. This is the Leviathan. This is what the film's about. They're kind of like whalers, but on a different planet, in a different solar system. They're trying to whale this floating Leviathan for some kind of natural resource. If you want to create a creature that's really big, you have to perform the scale. And you do that by making the movements really, really slow. Now look at this. That is such a cool shot. Have a look again. See, you don't really know what it's doing at first. You can see the creature just turn away like this, and you think for a moment that maybe the creature is gone. You know, it's gone completely out of frame. The whole screen is dark because it's going through the clouds. Like, the camera's pulling back through the clouds, which gives it so much of this murky, scary depth to the whole thing. The headlights of this thing through these clouds. And then the creature comes back, but it's caught up with this craft, right? So the craft is now banking this way, and you can't really see why, because the camera doesn't capture everything. You see, if the camera could capture everything, it's not going to be as scary, it's not going to be as suspenseful. The fact that the camera is so close in makes it really exciting because you can't quite see where the Leviathan is. You can see them banking this way, really steep, and then the jaws are right there. Wow. So they basically fly through the jaws of this massive creature. I love this murky cloud landscape. You really feel like you're on Jupiter or Uranus with this. And we keep to this layer. We don't get to go way above where it's nice and clear. It's just kind of sitting on the top of these dark clouds. Really, really cool. Okay, if I'm gonna make this video dedicated to 3D animation that has inspired me, I've gotta talk about Astartes. This is a mini series that was like a fan-made Warhammer 40k tribute. This series is some of the best executed action animation I've ever seen. Like, this series is a storyboarding masterclass. I could take any shot from this. So that's what we're gonna do here. I'm gonna take a shot from Astartes, and it has to be this one. Like, this one stood out straight away. I'm gonna play the sequence so you can see it. Okay, we're gonna go through that shot by shot, frame by frame for you. So let's start here with the gun. This is all very linear, and this is what I really like about Sayama Peterson's storytelling. It's got a lot of clarity to it, and it means you can have this fast-paced action, but you always understand spatially where everything is. And then from that clarity, he's able to build tension. And I think tension is a really important thing that I don't see in a lot of beginner 2D animators. They're there with the fast movements, fast pace, super powerful, lots of effects animation jammed in there, but they're not creating tension. And Sayama Peterson is excellent at this. So let's learn from him. And it powers up. So you can see that it just brightens up a little bit and then bang, look at the recoil on that, nice. We cut to the wicked cool character. Look at this texture and the design on here, the vertebrae coming out of the the back of his skull going into there. That's going to be important later. But for now, we see suddenly big flare, and it's very important here. The character's looking this way, and it establishes something important, which is that the character's force field is there whether they can see the enemy or not. The force field is going to protect them against everything because there's two of them and they're kind of watching each other's backs. This effects animation is so nice. I don't know how, like, again, with 3D animation, I can't really tell you how they make the energy of the ray gun just splashing over this force field. But my God, does it look impressive, doesn't it? There's a second one. You can see exactly where the impact is hit, it's right there, going out like that. And I love the recoil from the character, because you can see that the character is kind of recoiling from this. Look at this. Character is also recoiling, like he's kind of going like that because it's really bright. Maybe it's hot as well. Next shot, the gun falls to the floor. So he just discards this because I suppose the charge is used up. I've actually cut now because I was running out of time. But he basically forces his gun into the force field and then is able to rattle off a few shots of his machine gun. And so we can see the recoil here. One of the bullets catches him in the shoulder. You see the sparks flying everywhere. Really nice recoil. I love the texture on this guy's mask. It's so cool. They're doing this really extreme action, but you can't see any emotion behind it. And that's just something that I find very appealing about it for some reason. I don't know why. It's like all the characters are like total badasses. So the Space Marine sees that the shot has gotten through, and then check this out. From one frame to another, it goes bam like that. So ducks down really fast. It's just a blur, and then we see the knife. And look at this, there's streaks behind. Probably some like very fast motion blur, very stretched out motion blur. See the knife coming down. This is all happening over just a few frames, and then it stops right there. Look at that. Just a centimeter away from the neck, but he stopped. Why did he stop? Well, you're gonna find out. Look, and this guy's flinching away, he's moving away. That was a close one. The knife here starts to just ever so slightly shake from one side to another. Starts to go like that. And then you realize that the Space Marine is struggling. It's not that the Space Marine intentionally stopped and is trying to force the knife down and can't. Why is that? Well, you're about to find out. Something moves in front of the camera. We cut, and now we've just flipped the camera around, right? And check this out. He moves in from this side. And I love this. It's just the one glowing eye. Oh, look at everything's just bathed in shadow. Everything is such harsh downlighting. Even though it's 3D, theoretically you can illuminate everything in 3D, but he doesn't. Partial lighting and uses the shadow, because the thing with Sam Peterson that you should know is that he storyboards everything in 2D first before he does it in 3D. And I've seen his animatics for these. He has sound effects in there, rudimentary motion in there. They're very meticulous 2D storyboards. And then he constructs his scenes in 3D that follow the storyboard. Very, very meticulous and well considered by the time he's actually constructed them in 3D. Check out this framing here. So once this character's moved into place, we get a quick zoom out and we see that that was the frame. We have all of the information contained within the frame, right? The knife and how close it is to the head or to the neck. The other character has seen it and he's watching the back of the other psychic dude here. Wow, that shot is absolutely breathtaking. That knife looks so sharp and lethal. It's a long, sharp blade. And it's so close there, like that's where the tension is. Right there, that is the tension in the whole scene. Brilliant, brilliant. Next up we have a film, which I'm not even sure if I should call it a film. It's by Benjamin Bardot. It's called First Contact. This is how this technology of point cloud mapping was introduced to me. And what an introduction. It has a feeling of like impressionist paintings that you can walk through. It's almost like a cross-section of time that you are brought through, you're freely moving through it. And then to add to that, it's displayed in this swirling vortex of uncertainties where it's suggested, I suppose, that things are interlinked. So this looks like a newspaper he's reading, and you can see that these particles, they kind of behave in like, maybe like gas or liquid particles. We have the blue from his shirt that's running off in these very analog looking streaks. And if you were to play this, you'd see there are particles within there that are kind of moving, like a bloodstream or something, that are moving along or dispersing. You even have parts of the face as well that are kind of caught up in this flow. But it's clearly taken from a picture, you know, that he hasn't created this as a 3D model or a mesh or anything like that. No, this is point cloud mapping. So he takes the points, which is like the pixel coordinates, and those pixel coordinates are displayed in 3D space, which he can then move through with a 3D camera. This gets really interesting at certain points because it's captured from a still image and it's using light. It's taking light into a 3D camera, I imagine. There are patches of this where there won't be visual information, like the underside of the chin, perhaps. Maybe the angle at which this moment was taken in, you don't see that. And that creates these things where you can kind of walk around to the other side, but then you won't be able to see what's on the other side. Very interesting. How can we use this in 2D animation? I'm sure there are very interesting ways that we can be inspired by concepts like this that would be very valuable. Maybe not translating one-to-one as a 2D animation, but just as inspiration, you know? And this is why I like this. It's the intersection of technology and art. With the point cloud mapping, you have the visual information, but he doesn't just stop there with the visual information. He then uses that, he smears it around in this chaotic way that's very visually interesting, adds a little bit of subtle movement to it, and creates these kind of impressionist landscapes from this. Lovely wispy streaks that emanate out from here. And what are they? I don't know. Is it the flow of information? Is it the exploration of the mind? Well, that's for you to decide. It's art, right? The channel, Benjamin Bardot. And let's move on to the next one.
Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm here to explain some things.
So this film is a really big deal in the space of 3D short films. It's called Ryan. It's a kind of biopic of Ryan Larkin, who's actually a famous 2D animator. And it's made by a filmmaker that I have a lot of respect for, and that is Chris Landreth. It's an Oscar-winning short film, and therefore it is considered to be one of the best animated short films of all time. You should know this film not only for its accolades, but because it is an absolute treasure trove of creative ideas. Let's just have a closer inspection of some of the things he's doing.
Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Christopher.
Like me, Ryan is a filmmaker and animator. 3 decades ago, he was a rising star in the world of animation.
He's established this world where people's traumatic experiences in their past are actually shown on the outside. And then we have this story centered around Ryan Larkin. It's so interesting because there's almost nothing left of him. He's homeless. He was once considered to be a great creative animator, and he's just about held together, you know? He's got the nose, and then that leads to one eye. I love the very shallow depth of field in this, so we can really just focus in on the eyes, because he's looking for the first time in many years, he's looking at his old drawings that he created back when he was a prolific artist. So let's press play on this shot and see what happens just with the very tight close-up of him looking at his drawings. We see a little flicker of a smile appear on his lips. Very good character animation here. And as he blinks, we see some of, it's just a little bit, just a tiny little hint to those who are perceptive enough to see it. We see some of his former self coming back to him visually. Now, how he does this on a technical level, this is technically brilliant, but it also works fantastically as a metaphor for someone's psychology, for their personality, for who they are. This person who has wasted away, seeing their old drawings, brings them back to who they were before. Now we're going to look at what he's seeing. We have this over-the-shoulder shot of Ryan, and he's just been handed this drawing, and we can see the back of his head because, like I said, he's wasted away. There's hardly anything left of him. But the back of his head, we're seeing inside his mind. this is fantastic. We can see what's going on in his mind and it's imprinted. I've never seen anything like this, okay? He's smoking and we start to see this image on the back of his head starts to change. And we can just about make it out. We can make out little pieces of paper that he's been writing on, little maybe films he's watched in the past, and it's starting to come back to life. The visions, the ideas in his head, we're seeing them. We have the privilege of being able to see them. But wait a second, not only are we seeing the back of his head and we're seeing the thoughts that are occurring in his mind, as we move in closer on this shot, we just gently move in closer on this shot, and then look what happened to the drawing, bit by bit. Okay, so it's a still drawing, and then, oh, changed. Slowly at first, slowly, and then we start to see the drawings come to life, and he's remembering, because this is all very subjective animation going on. We see him remembering the animation. Wow. You can study this film shot for shot and learn so much about metaphors, storytelling, as well as learning some really interesting technical 3D ideas and tricks. So yeah, that's it. That's been a pretty epic video on 3D animations, some of the 3D animations that really inspire me as a 2D animator. Let me know if you like these kind of videos. I can make more of them. Leave your suggestions in the comments below if you have ideas of things you want me to cover. And it's time for my plug, so I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. If you want to make animations of your own, Mastering Motion is an advanced online animation course designed to train you in techniques that go far beyond the principles of 2D animation. Advanced techniques like 3D hand-drawn camera movement, fight choreography, effects animation, character animation, as well as my reference process. If that sounds a bit too advanced for you, if you're a beginner, then I've got you covered as well with my Getting Started in 2D Animation course. This one lays the foundations of everything you need to make your own animated films. That includes drawing principles, animation principles, storyboarding principles, and the rendering process. And this is all in one place. No need to hunt down obscure videos in distant corners of the internet. We build you up with animation exercises that grow in complexity as you learn more. It's a course that will help you to develop the ability to fully realize on the screen whatever crazy ideas are going on in your head. Go to animatorguild.com to learn more about these. The link is in the description and pinned in the top comment of this video. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment if you like, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.